Coming up on Risers and Fallers, we've got a pair of rookies and a pair of third-year breakouts right here on Player Profiler. Evan, all business today, just getting right through those opening recordings to get our guests the good stuff they need. Week 11 is in the books. Like I said, to start this show, we got a pair of rookies, pair of third-year breakouts. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Happy to be back. Happy to get right into it.
Yeah, no exciting news this week. We don't have to give our PTI style thoughts and opinions on a Bucky Irving or a Marvin Harrison Jr. We've got some meat and potatoes for you guys as we run right into the fantasy football playoff stretch here. So let's get to our first one. He is the talk of the town. He is finally starting to deliver for those consolation bracket winners potentially here. Let's talk a little Patriots running back TreVeyon Henderson. He is up to RB17 on our Player Profiler seasonal ranks, ahead of a tricky range of other rookies as well. He's passed RJ Harvey. He's passed Woody Marks. He's passed Quinshon Judkins. I do want to ask you about this one. We have him ahead of Josh Jacobs, and that's in our seasonal ranks. Is that factoring in injury? Do you not like what you're seeing from the Packers? What's going on there?
Yeah, it's some of both. Certainly the Packers offense has been disappointing recently, but I'd say it's mostly injury related.
Sure.
We're just worried that it might be more of a long-term injury than they're leading on.
Mhm.
It sounds like they want Jacobs to possibly play this week. I don't really believe that, but we'll
Yeah.
see it. We'll see how it plays out. We just never know with this kind of stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, TreVeyon Henderson, as you mentioned, the talk of the town right now.
Mhm.
Uh, 30 points per game over the last 2 games, and he's just completely dominated the backfield in all aspects since Ramondre left the lineup with an injury. The third down work, the short yardage, the 2-minute drill, the goal line, he's really just getting it all. And this has led to incredible production. Over that whole 3-game span without Ramondre, he's putting up 24 points per game on 20 expected points per game. And he's also just playing better in general. You see that signature stat on the screen, 252 yards after contact over the last 3 games.
Mm.
He also has evaded more tackles over the last 3 games than the previous 8 games. I'm expecting a significant change in usage when Ramondre returns to the lineup. Before the injury, it was roughly 60-40 in
Sure.
favor of Ramondre. I expect this to be more like 50-50 or possibly slanted towards TreVeyon when Ramondre returns. And adding on top of all of this, the Patriots have an incredibly easy schedule for running backs. They basically
Yes.
face every defense that you would want to face as a running back. So even in a 50-50 split, TreVeyon can still be a running back too, with that explosive production that we've seen recently to go along with that incredible schedule.
Yeah, you're getting everything you want if you draft this guy in the 4th round in August or even early September, like I did in a few leagues, not too many. I don't like to overindulge in the
4th
rookies,
round
but
hurts, man.
yeah, 4th round, there were some tough times. There's been a lot of Bam Knight and been a lot of Emmanuel Wilson even before the Josh Jacobs injury in my lineups. But alas, we've made it to the stretch here. And the big looming thing, of course, is Ramondre Stevenson. But the thing is, and you alluded to this a little bit, Henderson is doing things right now that Ramondre has never been capable of doing, whether he was fully healthy, not fumbling the ball, anything. The last 2 games he had were better than any Ramondre Stevenson game we've ever seen. And that's exactly why the Patriots invested the heavy draft capital they did into him so they could have this well-rounded attack. You mentioned the schedule, which is just, unbelievable. I cannot believe it's very rarely that you open up an app like Sleeper and you see nothing but green for the next 7 weeks of the season. Gets the Bengals this week, who've given up the most points to the position, 34 points a game, 30th ranked Giants, 31st Bills, and then so on and so forth. He's engaged, which I was not aware of this information. That's huge. There's 2 big turbo boosts to players during the season. You get engaged, not married, engaged, and then your partner's pregnant. Those are both force multipliers in the NFL sphere. So I will wrap this little baby up, and I'll punt this back to you. How many points for Ramondre Stevenson this week against the Bengals?
For Ramondre, well, if he plays, I don't know. I would say 30 for TreVeyon and 20 for Ramondre. How about that?
That is, you know what? If you had told me that back in August, I would have signed up. So that is an absolute
Yeah.
smash
And
on
then I
that.
also just want to add one more thing. This is why
Yep.
we draft the rookies. I know it was super disappointing to have TreVeyon on your team over the first 7 or
Mm.
8 weeks, but this is the thesis behind drafting these rookies is the second half of the season.
Yep.
And sometimes you need things to break your way, like Stevenson going out,
Sure.
but at least we got to this point, man, because it was
Yep.
really bad.
This people like us, it's our responsibility to read the tea leaves and give our professional opinion on what we think is going to happen. And we just have a laundry list of guys that this has happened to over the years. And that is why those rookies fly up the charts. It's not just because of a kick return in a preseason game. You look at the athletic profile, you look at the usage of running backs on the team he was drafted to, you look at who else is his RB competition. And it's all smelled like at some point this guy was going to get the rock. What those reasons usually end up being are always a little different, right? It's different for Woody Marks. It's different for RJ Harvey. It's different for TreVeyon Henderson. It was different for Quinshon Judkins. So a lot to be excited for here. So hopefully you guys are rewarded as we get to weeks 12, 13, and 14.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about another guy here who's doing it in a different way. This was the one I was excited to talk about, especially after we got a little bit of good news for him today. And that's going to be, I got to get those stats up next time, ladies and gentlemen. I am slacking on the slide. Let's get you off and let's get you back and let's get us back. Let's get to our wide receiver for this week, and that's going to be Cardinals wide receiver Michael Wilson. There we go. Boom, signature stat, most receptions in a 2025 NFL game. I couldn't believe it when I saw that. But hey, if you watch that game, he was getting open any and every which way down the field. He's up to wide receiver 42 on our player profile or seasonal ranks. He's ahead of guys right now like Jacoby Myers, like Cortland Sutton, and a player coming up after the break. The rarest of rare, Evan, a wide receiver handcuff for Marvin Harrison Jr. How are we feeling about Michael Wilson today?
I'm feeling good because a little shout out here. I'm also on a show on Fridays called Sleep Stream Stash on this channel that you can check out. This past week, I called out Michael Wilson as a sleeper, and it was the most successful one I've had this year. So I'm definitely feeling good about that. Make sure to check that show out. However, I did mention on that show while praising Michael Wilson that it is very difficult for me to make a case that Michael Wilson is actually good using data. When you look through all the metrics, it's just really, really hard. There's not a lot of high ranking statistics here, except for some team based stuff like team pass plays per game. They rank first in the NFL. So it's a situation based thing. And I think that if Marvin Harrison Jr. is indeed out again, then we can fire up Michael Wilson again.
Yeah, if this team continues to get down anywhere from 21 points, I mean, you just know that they're gonna who they're able to throw out there. The way that Jacoby Brissett is playing right now, or at least the shockingly level ability, what am I looking for here? The professionalism that Jacoby Brissett is showing and his ability to just execute an offense. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be top 5 in EPA per play. It doesn't have to be top 5 in success rate. He's just able to go out there and get the job done. They have the number 1 most passing attempts per game in the NFL. Marvin Harrison is out again this week, possibly even next week as well. So, and what we've learned with Jacoby Brissett, which we didn't have with Kyler Murray, is that this offense can be a duet. It doesn't have to be the one-man show like it was with a Marv or with a Trey McBride. 2 guys can eat, and it looks like it's going to be McBride, and then whoever that wide receiver 1 is, Nose Jones, Greg Dortch he's a utility guy. You're not going to get that from anybody else. What else we got here? Jacoby Brissett broke the record for completions in an NFL game. Another just absolutely shocking statistic. He's been the quarterback 4 in points per game going forward. So I'll kind of finish off here with he's got a really nice string of matchups leading into the fantasy playoffs. He gets the Jaguars and he gets the Buccaneers, who can get to you a little bit from a blitzing perspective, but not a incredible pass rush from either team, sans a player or two. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be back. This riser has a shelf life, but you're talking about an offense that, let's say you drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., you can slide him in and you don't miss a beat. Or if you didn't, you actually get that rare late season wide receiver addition to get you in prime position for the fantasy playoffs. So cheers for anybody out there who took Evan's advice, who has been paying attention and is hot on the trail for Marvin Harrison Jr. or for Michael Wilson.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Jacoby Brissett, just the absolute perfect backup quarterback. He's not good enough to actually push your starter in most situations, I guess.
Yeah.
There's Kyler Murray, but he's just so fun. He just rips every pass, and he's just racking up fantasy points for us, which it's exactly what we want.
And I'll throw a little sobriety in here for anybody who thinks, if Marvin Harrison Jr. does come back healthy, maybe there is potential for 3 guys in this offense. And I'm not saying there's not entirely. This is the one position where guys usually get erased if a talented player comes back. It doesn't happen. The toothpaste gets put back in the tube relatively easy with wide receivers, especially guys like you alluded to in the beginning of the segment, who just really aren't that talented. They're just more of they're filling a void more than they are earning targets and so on. So just something to keep an eye on. I don't want anybody's hopes to get up too much for weeks 15, 16, 17.
Yeah. And I am really high on the fit between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jacoby Brissett in this offense. I think that pairing is going to work really well. We saw that a little bit, but hopefully when he comes back, we can see it again. And I totally agree that Michael Wilson is probably dead once he comes back.
Yeah. So strike while the iron's hot, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we have got just some brutal wide receivers to talk about. So I'm excited for that, and we'll see you guys in just a second.
Let me ask you a question. If you had one player to pick, one player that's going to go nuclear this week, who would it be? And on Better Picks, that's all you need to do. They have a free player waiting for you in the app. You just log in and you see, okay, who is the free mystery box player that I get to ride this week? So download the Better app. Use promo code PlayerProfiler and watch your lineups cash. Maybe. Anyway, it's easy. It's free. And speaking of free, Better also gives you $10 of promotional funds, no deposits required, and Better has the highest multipliers in the game, 10,000x. It's crazy to even say it. It's wild. They let you win up to 1,000x on any 2 picks with their mystery multiplier. This big bang for your buck. It's simple. It's easy for beginners. So click the link in the description of this show. Better Picks. Sports just got better with code PlayerProfiler.
All right, Evan. It's we translate from one beautiful wide receiver breakout year 3 kind of guy to the exact opposite, and that's going to be Quentin Johnston, wide receiver, San Diego /LA Chargers, down to wide receiver 44 on our seasonal ranks. He's behind guys like Brian Thomas, Darnell Mooney, Khalil Shakir. I melted like a schoolgirl watching Michael Wilson take off this week. And speaking of Michael Wilson, he had more receptions and yards in just that last game than Quentin Johnston has since week 5. And that's with Justin Herbert at quarterback, multiple bagels or goose eggs in there, depending on what part of the country you're from. There's just no room at the end when Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen and Orlando Gadsden are out there pulling in almost 20 targets a game. What do we make of this very predictable faller as we rode on the week 12?
Predictable. I never saw this coming. What are we talking about? Nobody in the player profiler ecosystem could have seen this coming. That's for sure. Yeah, we know that Quentin Johnston, I do think that he has gotten better as a player. I was honestly impressed with the plays he was making early in the season. He was getting open a lot more and actually catching footballs, which is a huge step for him. I'm proud of him. But you're absolutely right that there's just not really room in this offense, especially now that their 2 stud tackles are gone. This offense is just not going to put up the same number of points. So fewer touchdowns, that particularly hurts Quentin Johnston, who at the end of the day, he is going to be a volatile player in general with his play style. A lot of deep catches and touchdowns that he relies on. There's going to be a lot less of those with no tackles in the mix.
Yeah, that's really the big thing here with QJ in particular, is that where he improved the most and where he was really being featured has completely gone off the edge of the world right now. And that's, of course, like you mentioned, the tackles go down. They can't use the run game, which I thought was going to be an obvious loss. I just really didn't expect for the exclusivity of those deep crossers, those deep routes that he's been running to just go away entirely, especially with how high quality of a season I thought Justin Herbert was having. 62nd in yards per route run, and that's for the player who has run the 9th most routes of any wide receiver this league. I mean, he has become a sacrificial X. There's really no other way around it. Teams with a decent pass rush have wiped his impact off the map, and that's because Justin Herbert just doesn't have time to get him the ball. He gets the Raiders, Eagles, Chiefs, and then eventually the Texans down the stretch. So I think he goes from borderline unplayable to potentially unrosterable. And that's where it gets into kind of like a strategic drop, right? Maybe you want to put him on the wire so that one of your playoff opponents picks him up and plays him against you. You know, there's always a little gamble in there. I'd feel pretty decent about that. Do you ever play that card at all?
I think it would be really smart in this situation because there is going to be a touchdown soon for Quentin Johnston, or if not a touchdown, there's going to be a big game probably coming. Very volatile play style, though. So after that big game, he's very likely to dud out again. And yeah, I think your point about Herbert not having time is very astute. It's just if Herbert wants to get QJ the ball, he has to be willing to take just a massive hit. He has to eat that just to get QJ the ball. So he's not going to do that. He has to take care of himself at the moment, and that has turned QJ into the sacrificial X, very volatile role in this offense.
Very volatile, and something that could be said almost about this next guy we're going to talk about as well. It's way too early in this guy's career to already be the sacrificial X, so hopefully that's not what we're saying about him in the offseason. Let's talk about Matthew Golden a little bit, rookie wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, way down the list at wide receiver 59 in our seasonal ranks, behind just legends of the game, Tez Johnson, Alec Eomanor, Adonai Mitchell is ahead of Matthew Golden, which honestly, I agree with all three of those, but that one in particular is a hilarious one to agree with. Evan, I watched every route of his against the Giants, and there was only about 11 of them, so it didn't take me more than a bathroom break. I think he's got it as a pro. He's too fast to keep up with one-on-one. His separation has been really, really easy. He's finding the soft spots in the zone. He's adjusting well out of structure. All things that were potential, some concerns for some people in a lot of draft profile stuff. Everything you wanted to see if you were a supporter of what he could be as an NFL wide receiver. He was much maligned for his lack of college production. He's getting much maligned for it right now as well. Where and how is this ever going to happen for him if this is how the Green Bay Packers want to conduct their offense?
Well, it's not going to happen this season. I can pretty much guarantee you that. We were just talking about TreVeyon Henderson, who is another darling rookie of fantasy Twitter going into the season. We're hoping for this late season breakout. We got it with Henderson. We are not going to get it with Matthew Golden. This is just a complete bust of a pick. And you might as well have just flushed that pick down the drain. He's outside the top 70 receivers in points per game and expected points per game. In terms of recent performance, Golden has not scored 8 fantasy points or expected fantasy points in over a month. And this past week, he ran just 11 routes, despite being ostensibly healthy. At least we think so. Below a 40% route participation. He's currently outside the top 70 wide receivers in targets, target share, and target rate. He's just struggling to earn targets, period. Obviously, an incredibly disappointing rookie season. I think we can officially say he's dead for 2025. We'll check back in 2026, but I am very nervous that Matthew Golden is just another part-time Packers wide receiver. At least, but for this one, we can't even look at the per route numbers and say they're awesome, like somebody like Jaden Reed, who is clearly just better than Matthew Golden.
Yeah, this is a tricky one because it makes an organization that has built their team very, let's just say the advanced analytics and some of the value they've gotten out of later round picks has been really impressive. An organization I felt like has earned the trust of the general football public in how they're team building. So it makes this such a head scratcher when he's basically not even a contributor, wide receiver 4 on a team with Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. And that's no shade at Christian Watson. I mean, like, he looked good and he's clearly just been given the role that I expected Matthew Golden to develop into at some point this season, which is really, really a tough pill to swallow considering the injury history that Watson has had to go through to get there. So if there was a guy you could beat, I thought this was going to be it. I'm not really viewing this offense as much of a serious team right now. And I know they've got some injuries. Jacobs is banged up. The wide receiver core is in and out. Love is always dealing with something, but they're coming off back-to-back losses, and they barely scraped by the most injured team in the league. And even when the Giants are healthy, they're not a good team. So that was at home. The schedule is not great down the line. So these 3 to 4 catches a game that I thought could maybe translate into like 5, 6, 7, 50, 60, 70 yards, it's way off of the radar. Even if he were to double his production right now, he wouldn't even be rosterable, let alone somebody you could consider could turn the corner at some point. Just really, really tough, because in our preseason episode as well, I pegged him as somebody that I thought going into 2026 was going to be a riser. And I still do feel that way because of his route running and his separation and all that. I just think that this team is too drunk right now to be able to utilize any of that. And I'm happy to see them struggling because of the utilization that they are lacking when it comes to my guy, Matthew Golden.
Yeah, it's just really hard for this offense to have success without Tucker Kraft in particular. He's such a big part of not only their passing game, but their running game as well.
Yeah.
And then going into next year, like, I definitely have hope for Golden. I did kind of get sucked into him this year, even though I wasn't that high on him as a prospect, because
Gotcha.
he is certainly a high upside kind of player that I can see it all working out. But he's with Jordan Love, who at the end of the day, a volatile quarterback. He has some awesome plays. He has some horrible plays. Very volatile, and they just love rotating these receivers. I have an interesting question for you. What year do the Packers next draft a receiver in the first round? Is it 2050, 2060?
When's the next Halley's Comet? It's going to have to take some sort of like magical something. I don't know. Maybe the next election cycle, something like that. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's just election years is when they're going to dip their toes into it. Wisconsin kind of goes either way. So red state, blue state thing. I don't know, man.
Because I think they went like 30 years. And then they finally took Matthew Golden, and it's not going great. So it might be 40 years. That would be my guess.
That is how they're going to look at it. And this is always my problem with the Packers, is that they don't have like some crazy donor like Jerry Jones or Al Davis. They just have all the thousands of Green Bay Packer fans who own stock in the team. They don't have that one guy who comes down, drops the hammer, and is like, no, take this guy. I saw him on Fox Sports 1. Colin Cowherd said he's going to be the next Tyreek Hill. Like, they just don't have that guy. So I don't even know why. I don't know who convinced them that Matthew Golden was a good pick, even though I think it was.
Yeah, I don't know. That owner thing is interesting because it can kind of go both ways, obviously.
Well, this is
Cowboys or the Panthers is another big one.
Yeah,
Bryce Young trade.
Yeah. Well, if the Green Bay Packers want to continue to hang the EPA per play and success rate banner, I mean, they're welcome to. They're number 1 in EPA per pass. But if you're watching Matthew Golden continue to not get the ball in situations that he should, it's a little bit of a head scratcher. So, all right, we're going to end today. Instead of doing our usual Thursday night football preview, we're going to hit you guys with a little something different. Evan and I are going to give you 2 players each that we think are going to be risers, or that are going to reverse course. A guy you might consider as a riser who might start falling, and of course, vice versa there. So I'll kick things off here, and I'll go negative so we can end the show positive today. I'm going to go with Ashton Jeanty on this one. He's going to be a guy who I think had a naturally tough game against not naturally tough, a nationally televised tough game against the Cowboys. But it was hard to say any of that was his fault. Geno didn't play well. The line was struggling. But he's coming off a nice little stretch here where he was RB5, RB14, and you might be thinking going down the home stretch, you've got a guy you can comfortably sit in your RB2 spot as we get into the fantasy playoffs. And then you see that he's got the Browns this week, the Chargers after that, Broncos, Eagles, Texans. That is, he might not get 30 points for the rest of the season. Now, I believe in the talent. I believe that he's being used in the passing game the ways that you want. 6 rushes for 7 yards against the Cowboys, who were ranked as the 32nd easiest offensive line for running backs to go up against going into that matchup, and they could not get the ball done. I wouldn't be surprised to see a quarterback change. I wouldn't be surprised to see an offensive coordinator change, anything like that. And those things, while sometimes they can play in the running back's favor, this is just not a team with any talent. It's not a team that's going anywhere, and they are in an awful, awful division when you need running back production. So do you have any Ashton Jeanty thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I was actually he was a guy that I heavily considered talking about here.
Nice.
Because I totally agree. I think next week fantasy Twitter is going to be completely melting down over Ashton Jeanty. They're all going to be losing their minds.
Yep.
And it's just going to get worse from there. Thank you for listing their schedule. I hadn't looked at that recently. Man, that is horrible. I need to drop him even further.
Yeah, tricky.
And it's really bad, man.
Mm.
It's really bad. I guess maybe if you could trade him for anything, maybe you should.
Yeah.
So my prediction for a faller next week is a guy who is coming off of a bad game, but I don't think people are really appreciating that as much as they should be. Khalil Shakir. So
Ooh.
between weeks 3 through 10, Shakir only had one game under 10 fantasy points. Last week, both Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid both were out of the lineup. And Shakir put up 0.7 points, negative receiving yards, -3 receiving yards in a game where the Bills scored 44 points. What the hell? And this week they're going into Houston to face the Texans, or actually they might be hosting that game, but they're facing that awesome Texans defense. I am completely out on all Bills wide receivers going forward. They're just rotating these guys way too much. It's a huge pain. They just got to get the 40% route share for Tyrell Shavers, and 40% for Curtis Samuel, and Gabe Davis now is back. It's a travesty. I'm done with it. Just avoid all Bills.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. This is the rotation of nightmares, and I could not. I mean, especially, and when they're winning games, this is a big thing for me. There's just not a lot of incentive for teams to change what they're doing, and they have never been a we got to get this guy involved game. If there's a matchup there, they'll exploit it, but you cannot count on that week to week. And that's maybe fine in week 7, 8, 9 when your lineups are going through bye weeks or there's injuries or whatnot. But when you go into week 14 and you're in or week 15 and you're in a round 1 matchup and you're going to have Khalil Shakir in your lineup, I'm going to be feeling awfully nervous about that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, now let's talk about a guy who I felt awfully nervous about in every single lineup that I've had him in, which has been a little bit because he has not been worthy of so. Xavier Worthy. He's going to be a guy that I think could reverse course here and go from a huge faller to a potential riser here. And guys, it's completely narrative driven. I do not have statistics for you. I do not have an injury. I do not have any sort of update other than the Chiefs have not won a game in 3 weeks. Now they've lost 2 games and they've had a bye week. They have the Colts, the Cowboys, the Texans, the Chargers, and the Titans over the next 5-6 weeks. Those are games that they're going to have to put up a lot of points. And I like a team like the Chiefs coming out of this little beatdown they've been given in back-to-back games. And I like for them to do a little something different. I like to see them get Xavier Worthy more involved here, get him involved down the field. There was a connection that Mahomes missed last week that would have been a long touchdown that might have already changed this narrative about him. But we saw Rashee Rice get shut down a little bit. Granted, they played the best defense in the league, but I like when their left hand is taken away. I want to see what their right hand's taken away. I want to see what they're able to do. This is a guy with high draft capital. This is a guy who's out there running a ton of routes. He's very involved. They just haven't been able to thread the needle here. Am I completely delusional because I also drafted Xavier Worthy in the 4th round of a lot of drafts, or is there hope? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel for this guy?
You know what? I actually heavily considered talking about Worthy as my faller instead of Matthew Golden this week.
Would have been easy. Would have been easy content.
It would have been very easy. And frankly, not as interesting as Matthew Golden. So I went with him instead. I really hope you're right because I have a couple Golden or Worthy shares in Dynasty that I would love to get rid of.
Yeah.
It looks to me like they're just going to go to 0 at this point.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned one thing that was very interesting. You mentioned that last week they almost connected on a deep ball, but Mahomes just overthrew him by a little bit.
Yep.
That is a huge trend over the last 2 years, is that Patrick Mahomes just cannot throw the deep ball anymore.
Yep.
I don't know what happened, but he can't do it, which is why I think that, unfortunately, Worthy is probably just dead.
Yeah, this is a long shot because you're right. He's not just overthrowing Worthy, not connecting with Marquise Brown. He's been missing Thornton. Any intermediate throw to Travis Kelce has been off. They've really had to pull his ADOT down, keep him going. And part of me wonders if offenses are just playing super conservative up top because they know the only way this offense can really score quickly is if Worthy beats them. So there's a little bit of that in there as well. But he's got 2 green matchups in the next 2 weeks. He's got Indianapolis. He's got Dallas. That could be a lot of fun. So if you're desperate, this is a dart throw that I'll recommend, but I can absolutely assure you I do not feel good about it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And my riser for next week is going to be Kenneth Walker, who is coming off
Nice.
of a pretty
Love
great
this.
game versus the Rams. But Mike McDonald said this week that Walker's just been playing incredible and deserves to get more touches. I think they'll follow through with that. I trust Mike McDonald's coach speak. That they're playing the Titans. The Titans' run defense is not good at all, and the game script will be in Kenneth Walker's favor. So I'm expecting Walker to go crazy this week. He's currently my running back 13 coming into this game.
Yeah.
Which is, far higher than he's ever been this season. So yeah, Kenneth Walker, big riser next week.
Feel really good about that. And it was really the timing of that touchdown that he scored last week. This is I think it was a 9-point game, 2 minutes, 20 seconds left. And they give Kenneth Walker the goal line score. So it wasn't, that's a real sign of trust in the guy that you have on the field in a probably the most important game of the season for any team. So I really like those and that's all we really have right now, because Kenneth Walker he's been a metric darling in certain aspects. We just want to see that team chemistry build with him. We want to see them give him the rock in important moments. And I really like, the schedule is interesting down the stretch. Are you worried at all about, we keep getting, who's the third running back they continue to make?
George Holani.
Yeah. Are we worried about any more Olani?
That was driving me crazy last week.
That's usually what I see at the gas station when I'm going for like a Celsius, is Olani right next to it. I wasn't expecting him to be on the field doing the same thing as well.
Yeah, no, it certainly is driving me crazy. Not just the split with Holani, but Charbonnet in particular too.
Yeah.
They just need to give Walker more touches, and it sounds like they're going to.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm being delusional. I guess we'll see.
Could be a late season thing. I have heard other people speculate that they've been keeping him in the box. A break glass in case of emergencies thing here. He's got the Titans this week, which is awesome. Vikings after that, which is okay, depending on who's healthy and who's available. And then you get the Falcons. So we're gonna get that narrative put in our face pretty quickly if that ends up being the case.
Yeah, for sure. He put up 20 points against the Rams, who are a really good run D. So we're looking up.
Yeah, feels good. That's right. It does feel like a flex, and that's what we need, because my flex positions are hurting. So if I could flex him in there, that feels good. All right, Evan, that'll do it for us today. Great work again, per usual. Tell the people where they can find you.
On X at Evan Ringler FF. And besides that, you could find me on this YouTube channel, or all my work is at playerprofiler.com, metrics, rankings, etc.
Excellent. Evan is doing amazing work for you guys out there. So hopefully you guys are taking advantage of everything Player Profiler is offering every single week. And I will be back Sunday morning, start sit show 8 a.m. rocking and rolling. Really been enjoying that. So good luck this weekend. Listen to every word we said, apply it to your lineups. Come back next week and thank us. Cheers.